So the purpose of this pod mostly is just to get to know you guys a little bit better. We know Madison and Mallory, but we want to know a little bit more about Madison and Mallory, especially seeing as how both of y'all are former Miss Texas.
Current Miss Texas.
Former and current Miss Texas. So, here we go. So, if you're wondering who's who, that is Madison, and that is Mallory. And so, I guess the most important question is, how did we get here? How did we get here?
Well, it seems like a family trade. Is it a family situation? Did the older sister do this?
Yes, she did.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's your oldest sister's name?
So we have an older sister. We're all 3 years apart. Morgan, and then me, and then Mallory. Funny enough, our mom,
just mine,
my mom, we're from a small town, and every year they have the Freestone County Fair. Big deal there. Cattle and ranch is huge there. And the Freestone County Fair queen used to go to Miss Texas back in the day. So she did the little county fair pageant, was not a pageant girl, ended up competing at Miss Texas, loved it, but that was her one and only time.
Yeah.
So we knew about it because of her experience and, the wonderful time that she had and meeting good friends. So that's kind of how we got started. Morgan kind of led the gang, and we all followed suit, and here we are.
Yeah. It's funny to hear Mom talk about it, though, because she talks about how when she was our age, Miss Texas was like the ideal. And it was like, oh, my goodness, you put her on a pedestal. It's Miss Texas. And now 2 of her daughters are both Miss Texas. So it's funny to hear her talk about it, too. But, family affair. But here we are now.
So by the time you got there, did you have a choice? Was it just kind of like?
Well, yes, I did. So when I was younger, they like to talk about me a lot. So when I was younger, I was not interested in it. I wanted to go to the hotel room and play with my Barbies, and they like to tell the story of me pulling the tablecloth off of the table at like a banquet that they would have at the Miss Texas, and we also did one when we were younger.
Pause. The reason we talk about it is she wasn't 5, she was 13.
Oh.
Okay, no, I wasn't pulling the tablecloth up at that one.
She dropped her entire plate.
I dropped the plate in my lap. Yes. So when I was younger, I wasn't 13, I was 12. But when I was younger, I was not as interested in it. By that age, I was, and I definitely wanted to be just like Morgan and just like Madison. So, yes, I did have the option. But when I was little,
just not interested.
I wasn't there for it.
It wasn't until recent years that we were like, oh yeah, Mallory could be Miss Texas. Yeah. Up until then, it was like,
maybe not. So,
ouch! The truth is out.
So I'm curious. So you said you were from a small town. So where are you from?
Fairfield.
Okay, and that's like outside of Miss. No, where's that at? Where's Fairfield?
It's like an hour and a half west of here.
Okay.
So if you're going to College Station.
It's south of Corsicana on Interstate 45.
It's like the halfway mark between Houston and Dallas.
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay.
3 stoplights, 3,000
If you blink, you miss it.
Nice. All right. Cool. So it's a family affair, it seems like. So again, what led to, so you said your mom was a big influence in your life with that, but what is the process like? Like you started off, how young were you? How did you have to get to all of that?
So just to give you kind of a glimpse, every summer Miss Texas came on. It was the weekend of 4th of July. I remember being in kindergarten, 1st grade. I'd make a pallet in front of the TV so I could watch it, get my popcorn. It was a huge deal in our house just because, like I said, my mom had been. I don't know if we were planning at that point for any of us to ever go or be Miss Texas, but it was just something we did every year. And I remember specifically, it was 2002. The girl that I wanted to win was second runner-up, and she was aging out. I threw a fit. It's this is not fair. She was a ventriloquist. So I was like, I'm going to be Miss Texas one day because Brooke didn't get to be Miss Texas, and it's not fair. She was the best one, blah, blah, blah. So that's kind of where it started. When my older sister started competing, we were both kids. We were still young. And they have a mentor program called Lone Star Princess. So we were basically mentored by contestants. 1 year, 2 years in a row, our Miss ended up winning Miss Texas. So we got to walk on stage and she was being crowned, and we were standing there. So...
Where's that picture?
Yeah, right.
For real.
But we both started when we were 13. So there's a teen pageant that you go through, and it's our teens are in those pictures. They're the ones on the sides kind of helping crown. So you go through that process, and It's kind of a mini Miss Texas, so you don't drop out of school. Drop out, that's not the right word. You don't take a year off of school if you win the teen. You're still in high school. It's just more of an extracurricular activity, but it is scholarship. So that's kind of what drew us in. Yeah. And I was a teen in 2010, so I got to learn from Miss Texas that year. And then when we went to college was when it was like, okay, yeah, we want to be Miss Texas.
Yeah.
Just how many years apart? Three. Yeah.
Yeah, 28.
She competed the year I won, though.
Yes, I did. You can't see me. I wish we had the picture of me behind you. I'm going to try to find it. Me behind Madison, losing my mind. Yeah. I was more dramatic when Madison won than I was when I won, and I think she was more dramatic when I won than when she won. So, like, for each other.
Yeah.
So, it was cool because, obviously, like, we're super close, and we have been our entire life. Like, I was always 2 steps behind her, but the year that Madison won Miss Texas, we were actually roommates. Aww. And I feel like we got even closer together that year, going through competing together and preparing and doing all of the things that it takes to compete at Miss Texas. I feel like we got even closer through the sisterhood of the Miss America organization, even though we literally grew up sisters. Best friends. Yeah. Right. So it's cool how you become such close friends with all the girls, but again.
Yeah. It's a very emotional process too. Like that week especially takes a lot out of you. It's more than just a week. I mean, we spend basically a year in advance preparing for it, just all of the different requirements. And I think a lot of people are like, oh, a beauty pageant.
Yeah. Right.
No.
It's not like that.
It really was like a full-time job preparing, and then obviously being Miss Texas. So yeah, having your very best friend, not everybody gets to have that, but having your very best friend there alongside you that, I mean, take the competitive side out of it. I don't think there was a moment that we were ever like, oh, I gotta beat Mallory.
No. No. And that was something that I dealt with because I was the younger sister, and she had competed 3 years, I think, before I finally started competing. And it was always like, so what are you going to do to beat Madison? And I was like, I'm not. I don't want to beat Madison. I want Madison to win. And then when she did, I was like, okay, I could do this now. Like, I want to be Miss Texas. So, yeah.
So after the teen one, you can start at 13. Do you just keep doing that same one?
So not everybody does teen. That's an option. Okay. So they have kind of something for everybody. I was talking about the mentoring program, and as a result of that, a lot of those girls go on to compete in teen because they see the benefits of it. They're mentored. They then step into the teen program. Not everybody does, but some do. So that's 13 to, I think, 18 now.
18,
yeah, they kind of changed the age limits there. Wow. So a lot of girls will compete in that, and then the Miss category goes up to 26. Okay. So depending on your age, you can compete in whichever or both if you want to do it multiple years, which is what we both did.
So if you're me, you compete in the teen for 4 years. So I did it 13 to 17 because that was the age limit when I competed. And then I started in Miss when I was 19 and did it until this year. Yeah. And I'm 24 now. So
you compete until you either win or age out or just decide you don't want to do it.
You don't want to do it.
Oh, okay. So how many years did you do the Miss?
5.
Right.
I was the perpetual third runner-up. I was third runner-up 3 years in a row.
Oh,
every year. It was painful. And then I was first runner-up to the girl that crowned me, and then one after that.
It is cool, though, because, like, I feel like we kind of have similar stories, but I was never successful in teen. And then the year before, so we didn't have Miss Texas the COVID year. So I competed at Miss Texas 4 times, but 5 years. Oh. So similar timelines, but a little bit different. But the year before, in 2019, when Chandler won, who's crowning me, that was the first time that I ever made the top 5. Whereas Madison, teen or miss. Whereas Madison, every time she competed, made the top 5 and was continually successful. We still have similar stories, but
hers is more of an underdog story.
Mine is an underdog story. I came from not doing so well, so it's cool to see how everybody has their own journey throughout the entire thing.
Does anybody ever just like come in and first time, or is it
the girl in the blue dress that's standing beside me? Her name's Catherine. Okay, not the one crowning me. Teen? Yes, the teen. Okay. That's my teen, Catherine. She had never done a pageant, like not one single pageant. And because of COVID, they opened up at-large titles, which means you can just grab a title and go to Texas, which they don't really do that anymore. But because of COVID, they did. And Catherine was like, that sounds fun. I'll do it.
Sign up.
Walked in, won Miss Texas Outstanding Teen, and then competed at Miss America's Outstanding Teen and was second runner-up.
Oh, wow.
So that's also a really cool story because, like I said, we all have different journeys. Even mine and Madison's are a little bit different. But then you have people like Catherine who just walk in and
So there's no rhyme or reason.
yeah,
to
there's
it.
no rhyme or reason.
It's all in God's hand. Whether or not it's in your destiny.
Yeah.
So,
cool.
I've always been curious. So, you say competing. Like, what goes into competing in a Miss Texas? Obviously, it's more than looks, but like, what actually goes
As
into
it should be.
Right.
Take it.
Yeah, I can. Well, recently, Miss America has kind of evolved a little bit. So the year that Madison won, there was talent, evening gown, there was a swimsuit competition, and interview. But now Miss America is, so I'm actually getting ready to compete at Miss America in like 2 weeks, which is crazy. 13-year-old Mallory's freaking out. But I will compete in talent, evening gown, on-stage question, a social impact pitch. So every Miss America candidate has their own personal social impact initiative. So I'll give like a minute-long pitch on what mine is, which mine is suicide prevention. And
Like a
then,
mini TED Talk.
Yeah, a
almost.
TED Talk.
Okay.
And then interview. So there's no longer a swimsuit portion of competition, but it's really focused on now, I feel like, our social impacts, what we want to do with that, our plan, what we would do as Miss America, and then our talent. So
Okay.
I think that's the misconception. So the social impact, every contestant has one. It's anything that you're passionate about, that you have a personal tie to. Mine was pediatric cancer awareness.
Okay.
So every contestant has that, but there are hours upon hours spent doing community service, and these are all requirements too.
Yeah.
There's a scholastic side of it, so your grades and your education are considered in part of it. So it really is a lot more than just,
what meets
she's
the eye.
wearing a pretty dress on stage. I hope she
Right.
wins.
Yeah. There's a lot that goes into it. A lot of preparation. And then, like she said, the community service is a huge part of it now, especially in recent years. I feel like it always has been, but now there's kind of a shift of like, okay, what are you going to do as Miss Texas, as Miss America? So I think that's really cool. And I'm excited about it. And I'm excited about the direction that Miss America is headed in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think Madison had already kind of told us a little bit earlier about there's like a week that you're like almost like a prisoner. She said that you get like visitation rights for like 30 minutes.
It's almost like quarantining
I told them about
COVID again.
visitation. They're like, oh man,
it sounds like you're in
it's a
prison.
lot more
Like,
intimidating than it actually is.
Yeah.
you're really good.
my
You get
God.
a
It's
roll
really
for
fun.
supper.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So at Miss Texas, they put us all on the same floor of a hotel, and we have like these host moms. They call themselves the Lone Star Ladies. They're the best.
It's like a group of grandmas who
Aw.
are the
They're the
coolest
best.
grandmas ever.
There we go.
Yes.
That's amazing.
But we are sequestered, and you have a roommate, and nobody else is allowed on that floor. If somebody tries to come up there, one of the Lone Star Ladies will shut it down. But
Get it, Grandma.
I like to explain it. The way that I explain it is it's like summer camp, but for Miss Texas, because it really is. You're just surrounded by all the girls who are competing. So
what
that's a
do
lot of
you
fun.
do for that week?
That's when you're competing. So
Rehearsals.
yeah. When you get there, there's like 3 or 4 days of rehearsals, and then you'll have your private interview. And then after that, prelim nights will start. So there's 3 nights of prelims where you compete in talent, on-stage question, and then the social impact pitch. And then there's like another day of rehearsals, and then the final night competition. So it's a process where you get there.
So the talent portion, is that all pre-recorded? Or
Everything's
That's
live.
So, because your talent was the violin?
Yes,
Right,
the
okay.
violin fiddle style.
Okay.
So Miss America is real similar, but they do it through a lens of, I was in Atlantic City, they'll be in Connecticut, but like all week you're doing promo packages for commercials, for sponsors. So there's a lot of like, and we did a lot of touring at Atlantic City where we were promoting the hotels and casinos for people to come and stay. So, I mean, it's a jam-packed week.
Wow.
But it's like a once-in-a-lifetime, Miss America especially, once-in-a-lifetime experience where you are only with the people who are going through exactly what you're going through, and you know you'll never get to do it again.
Yeah.
Right.
So it really is like, it sounds awful. Like, you get to visit with your family 30 minutes for the entire week. I mean, it sounds awful. It really isn't. But
It's a lot of fun.
it's like this 1 week of your life that you're with just those other 50 girls, and that's it. Yeah. You're competing for.
And you really do get close to the other girls who are competing. I know that's probably another misconception, is that everyone's catty or
Right.
Really
two of them in my wedding.
competitive with each other.
Aw.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I'll probably have like the girl that was my roommate at Miss Texas this year. Like, I love her so much. And we got so close through being roommates together and all of that, just everything that you go through together
It sounds
during
exhausting.
the week.
Yeah.
It is exhausting, but it's so much fun.
You start crying and you don't know why you're crying. You're tired and you're happy and you're all the things, and you're just crying and you don't know why you're crying.
Oh, it must be really nice to have people that like understand.
Yeah.
'Cause you-
It's great with the two of us, because when you take all of that away, it's like, that's my real sister. Like, I can go to her and
Yeah.
Especially
So,
when the tears come.
oh, absolutely. So after, like, so you won, both of y'all won.
Right.
So, like, after that, what's next?
Yes. So Miss Texas is a full-time job.
Okay.
which is why you have
Which
not
is
seen her
why
at
you have not
GSS.
seen me at GSS.
We miss
Well,
you, but it's okay.
I was under the impression that my year was going to look a little bit different because of COVID.
Yeah.
We were coming out of it, and we didn't know if we were going to have school appearances. We didn't know if people were going to be wanting me to come in. And then all of a sudden they were like, Mallory, you were on track to be the busiest Miss Texas we've ever had. And I'm like, okay, cool. So right now I'm actually in school as well.
Okay.
I am getting ready to take my finals. I'm getting my master's degree in speech pathology. So it has been a whirlwind of almost 5 months now.
Sweet friend.
I have traveled 24,000 miles since June, spoken to over 10,000 students. And especially, so I mentioned that my social impact is suicide prevention. So I've had a ton of schools who want me to come in. Right. And I know Madison, she probably did more elementary school appearances than she did the middle school or high school, but I have done the opposite. I've had a ton of high school and middle school appearances where I go in and I talk to students about suicide and how we can prevent it. So it's been really cool because it's been a very rewarding job, but it's also been exhausting. And it's like Madison said, she understands it all. So she's somebody that I can go to when it does get really hard. I had a celebration a few weeks ago, like a send-off for Miss America. They're sending me off. They're getting rid of me. No, a celebration, getting ready for Miss America. And Madison started speaking, and she started talking about how hard it is to be Miss Texas. And I just started like bawling because I was like, she gets it. She understands that it's a full-time job. I would honestly say it's more than a full-time job. It's more than 40 hours a week.
Yeah.
I feel like
There is no limit.
Yeah, I feel like I wake up doing Miss Texas stuff and go to bed doing Miss Texas stuff because it's constant like communication with leadership, and if you're not at an appearance, you're preparing for Miss America. So it's exhausting, but
When you run
rewarding.
your own social media accounts, you're
Social
doing
media,
all of the behind the scenes stuff too, and it's like Miss Texas does have to go get her hair cut once in a while or pick up dry cleaning, and those are your off days, or you running those errands so that you can do the next thing the next day. Yeah. So it really is. It's crazy busy.
Yeah.
Crazy busy.
And I don't think anybody, like, we can tell people it's like, it can be really hard. And they're like, oh. But like it really can. So that's what I told her. I was like, you won't understand it until you're in the thick of it.
Yeah.
It's not that you're ungrateful. It's not that you don't love every minute of it, but it can be emotionally exhausting.
Yeah.
No, I remember seeing on, I guess maybe it was on your Instagram, or maybe it was like the Texas Rangers, and like you were there, you played the national anthem, and then you were there like just as Miss Texas. I was like, oh, well, that's cool. That sounds like fun.
Oh, you get to do some amazing stuff.
Yeah, the Rangers was really cool. And then this past weekend, I lit the tree at the Star, the Cowboys Star in Frisco. And so like all the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders were there. And then we had dinner in the Cowboys Club. And there are some really cool experiences that happen like that. But that is not
every day.
That is not. There's like some really rare
highlight moments here and there. And then there's days that you're like,
that's the
not as glamorous as
very exciting moments, but not
every day
like that. But.
Gotcha.
So the whole rattlesnake situation.
Oh yeah, that hasn't happened yet for me, but stay tuned.
How far away
is
is
that? It's on my
that?
calendar. It's in March.
Okay.
Yeah, it's coming up.
I was sharing pictures at our Friendsgiving the other night.
Oh my. Yeah.
That would not. I would. Panic
And
attack
every
right out of
Miss
there.
Texas has done it
Yeah.
since she's gone. Every
Yeah.
Miss Texas has gotten in the pit, and nobody wants to be the Miss Texas that says no. So,
Yeah.
like, you either do it
But at that
or
point,
you do
would-
it.
At that point, you would have already gone for Miss like America or whatever.
Okay.
So will it like hurt you to not do it at this point? Like, if it's just
No, I mean,
I
and they
don't
tell
know.
you, they're like, you
That
don't have
freaks-
to do anything that you don't
Yeah.
want to do, which
Right.
is true. But also, like, Madison
kind
did
of-
it. I'm not going to be the one to not do it if Madison did it.
that's
Hold
right.
over
You
her
know?
head forever.
That's right.
true.
They
I
say
just-
Miss Texas is all things to all people. So even if it's something that's out of your comfort zone or it's something that you wouldn't do in your everyday life, you're not Mallory, you're Miss Texas.
That is.
But you also have to look at that, what she said, Miss Texas is all things to all people. I feel like pushing yourself out of your comfort
Yeah.
zone. I'm not the same person I was 5 months ago because I have grown so much through
Yeah.
learning that and learning how to push myself out of
Right.
that comfort zone. So it's a year of exhaustion and growth.
Yeah.
How has that affected your relationship with the Lord, or how has your relationship with the Lord changed kind of how you do this?
Yeah.
I guess.
Well, one thing that I realized very quickly, and I'll go back to talking about my social impact being suicide prevention, going in and talking about suicide
Yeah.
is very hard. And so that's one way that I've had to be kind of dependent and reliant on the Lord because, like, like how do you find the strength to continue talking about that every single day? Because it
Yeah.
is such a heavy topic. And one thing, so I actually at the beginning of this year had to go see a counselor for the first time after I lost my grandfather.
Yeah.
So that's been another way that I've been able to continue to keep up with my mental health. And she is a Christian counselor, so she brings God into it a lot. And
Yeah.
so teaching me ways to rely on him, even though it can be really tough and really hard. So relying on him for strength and joy and all of those things when you're talking about a subject every single day, that is
Yeah.
so hard. So, yeah.
Yeah. So for those of y'all who don't know, so Mallory is a small group leader for the now freshman girls, and Madison is a small group leader for the sophomore girls here at GSM. And so even though they're both Miss Texases, one of them, former. Anyways, even though they're both Miss Texases, spreading the love of Jesus to students is something that they're still very passionate about. So how hard is it though to like go through this Miss Texas, Miss America, and you know, especially in a world that's very like kind of against Christianity. Like how hard was it and is it to like go through all of that?
Well, I mean, when I'm thinking about leading my small group of girls, it's hard to be a girl, period.
Right.
To be a Christian girl,
true.
you know, like, and they're in that very pivotal but also really hard time in their life where, you know, they're starting to become teenagers and just trying to navigate who they are. So having that opportunity to mentor them and, you know, relate to them, I think a lot of times people are like, oh, but you're Miss Texas, like you don't have hardships or, you know, like there's this misconception that your life is perfect and that you don't struggle when in all reality, that was one of the hardest years in my life to have self-confidence or to,
Oh, yeah.
you know, just all of those things because there's just, I think, a lot of self-induced pressure, not from other people per se, but just on your own self. So being able to mentor them and, you know, relate to them, and even still at 27 as an adult married, I still struggle as a girl, as a Christian, as all of those things, but just showing them, you know, at the end of the day, put it all on the Lord and, you know, trust him that he's got you. I was thinking about that on the way here. I don't know the exact saying, but like the same God who created the sun and the moon and all of the stars in the galaxy, he created you.
Yeah.
And you have such a significant purpose. I have to remind myself of that daily, even now,
Yeah.
that he loves you so much. And even when you don't love yourself, he's there and he has always been there and he always will be. So, yeah, that throughout my year as Miss Texas was just something I constantly had to remind myself of, that my worth was not in the things that I was doing, in a crown that I wore on my head every day, or in anything Miss Texas, Miss America related, but it was in him and him alone.
I think that's really encouraging for like any girl, just knowing. I feel like there's a stigma around like if I were just prettier, if I were just thinner, if I were just
yeah.
tanner, if I were just this, if my teeth were straight, if whatever. especially for girls. I think that's catching up with boys too.
Yeah.
But it's just been a stigma for girls for a really long time. But to just hear, the Miss Texases in the room just admitting that that's still, like, it doesn't fix anything. Like, those struggles and that comparison game will, like, steal your joy regardless of who you are or if you have a crown for, whatever reason. That's really encouraging to hear.
And one thing, so I talked about having to be reliant on the Lord. And one thing that continues to come up when people will talk to me, we're at my send-off celebration, Morgan, our older sister, actually said it, but the verse, it's the Esther verse. I can't think of the numbers right now, but created for a time such as this. And you find, like I continue to find that to be true about my year as Miss Texas. And Madison talked about how you think that, oh, it's Miss Texas. She has it all together. Her life is perfect. But another thing that when I go into all of the high schools that I'm going to, I have a slide. And there's pictures of me with, like, my cystic acne, and I'm, like, crying. And I talk about my struggle with not loving myself and having to go see a counselor because I was dealing with anxiety. And then the feedback that I get. I have girls who will message me on Instagram and thank me for being so vulnerable. Mm-hmm. And so that, as well as just, like, I like to call them God winks. So when something happens and I'm like, oh, that was God. Yeah. All of those moments remind me that, like, he is there and I am being reliant on him. And I truly feel like, all the sacrifices that I've had to make, I've had to leave GSM for this year. I'm going to be taking 2 semesters off school starting in January. All of the sacrifices that I've had to make to be Miss Texas, I truly believe that God, like, has placed me here right now because people need to hear the things that I'm talking about. They need to hear about mental health and suicide prevention and all of those things. So going back to just, like, being reliant on him is very rewarding, and, like, seeing the way that he does show up in every single day. So
that's incredible.
Yeah, it's hard, but there is rewarding parts of it. My phone just fell off the chair.
Was there a difference in how your religion kind of played into questions and stuff if you answered them a certain way? Mm-hmm. Was there a difference? Because I feel like Miss Texas might be one way accepting wise because you are in the Bible Belt.
Right.
Versus going off to Miss America. Was that, like, a different, like, the girls different about it? Was it, like, a little bit more taboo, or was it pretty much the same all across the board?
What do you think? As far as Miss America goes?
Just, like, the different, was it different, or was it pretty much the same? Was it accepting, or?
I mean, a lot of the girls are Christians, and I think you can quickly find your people, and there's so many of them that you don't have to be best friends with everyone, but there was one candidate specifically who wasn't a believer, and my best friend, she was Miss Oklahoma. That was our mission, was to just show her Jesus daily, not to have to go outright and tell her, but just show her that every day. And throughout your years, Miss Texas, you have some church appearances, so I was able to share my testimony quite a few times. I came to Grace and did chapel for the junior high girls.
That's so cool.
One of my very favorite appearances of all, because, like I said earlier, it's hard to be a girl, and just having that girl talk and being able to tell them, like, God loves you so much. Those appearances were always great, but then there are other appearances that you go to where you're speaking to a totally different demographic. Mm-hmm. I think that's where the opportunity comes in, that you don't have to say it, you can show it.
Yeah.
For sure. That's awesome. Yeah. You mentioned, like, the questions. Obviously, I haven't gone to Miss America yet, but I do feel like Miss America has kind of embraced, like, it's not necessarily what you believe or, like, your opinion, but, like, the way that you communicate it. And so I feel like I can stay true to my beliefs, and that's something that, when you're preparing for interview or on-stage question, like, you do practice. You do work through trying to decide what your opinions are on all of these things. And my opinions are shaped by my religion and my beliefs. So that's one thing that, like, the Miss Texas organization and the leadership with Miss Texas has tried to help me with, because we are living in a world where Christianity isn't always accepted. But again, like, having love and empathy with all of your answers, and it's just staying true to who you are, because ultimately, like, it's not worth changing your beliefs or changing your opinions. But
that's
I would say Miss Texas leadership does a great job of that too.
Yes.
Good.
They're not trying to change
There was never a
us.
moment where I was like, oh, don't mention the Lord. Like,
Yeah, no.
It's very much so. I said Miss Texas is all things to all people, but you put your own personal flair and spin on that. And I would say your faith plays as much of a role in it as you want it to.
Yeah,
Okay.
for sure.
So we're running low on time, so we're almost done. But I do want to make sure, like we mentioned, how with you guys being Miss Texas now, going to Miss America and things like that, what is something that you would tell, your small group girls or just girls in general who are going to possibly listen to this?
You go first.
Okay. I mean, I would just go back to what I was saying earlier. Like, he loves you, point blank, period. At the end of the day, there are so many things with TikTok and social media, and I'm guilty of it. I can scroll on Instagram for hours and look around, and I want this,
night.
I need that, I want to change this, I want that. But at the end of the day, it's all just things.
Right.
And I think it was our older sister, your earthly crown, your physical earthly crown that she's currently wearing. I have mine in my house. It's pretty and you look great in it, and it's such a cool opportunity. But at the end of the day, your heavenly crown is waiting on you. And, there are just so many things that this world tells us we need or that we have to be, but you don't. And so I would just remind them. I think it's easy for us to forget, who we are in Christ. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters.
Yeah. And I think mine would be very similar to what she said.
You can't copy me.
Okay. But I would tell my girls, because, getting so close to them last year and seeing the struggles that they had, and a lot of it does have to do with social media and just all of the pressure that they are facing right now being teenagers. But telling them that they were created so perfectly, and I like the quote that you said earlier, the same God that created all of the beautiful things that you see in the world, like sunsets, the ocean, beautiful creations, like he looked at you and said that you were better than that. Like you were perfectly made in his image. And that they are enough. And even if you aren't enough, the Lord is enough. And so I do see the pressure that they face, especially with social media and everything that they are going through. And, I feel that same pressure sometimes. It's like Madison said, there are days that I wake up and I look in the mirror and I'm like, I wish I could change all of these things. But going back to looking at 13-year-old, 14-year-old Mallory and all of the insecurities that she had, I don't think I believed at that age that I would ever be Miss Texas or I would be going to Miss America. I didn't believe in myself. And so I would tell them and encourage them that they are enough. They are perfectly made. You don't have to change yourself to fit into any kind of mold. I didn't have to change to be like Madison, even though Madison was Miss Texas. And I thought, I need to be more like Madison. I need to be more, whatever. It was when I truly believed in myself and accepted Mallory for Mallory that I was successful. So to be themselves, to rely on the Lord and realize that they are wonderfully and perfectly made.
Yeah, that's incredible.
That's awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for being here. I know the world was a...
I don't know, but I jump at everything. So sorry. You guys drew crazy.
That's hilarious.
On that note.
Yes. Honestly, thank you all for being here. It's a pleasure. Mallory, we don't get to see you as much as we used to, and so it's just awesome that you're able to be here with us.
We're waiting with open arms for you to come back.
Yes.
So
I will be
you
back.
have not been forgotten.
I will be back so soon.
Absolutely. So awesome. Thank you all so much for being here, and look forward to seeing you competing in Miss America, and look forward to seeing you every Wednesday here at GSM.
I'm here all the time.
You're here all the time. You are here all the time, actually. Yes. So
We appreciate it.
we definitely appreciate it. So thank y'all. Thank y'all so much for being here.
All right. Peace.